Hello, this is the application project for the Engineering Management 805 course from Team 3, consisting of myself, Nolan, and Dustin. The challenge our team chose was individual and team evaluations, along with a reward system. In each of our sectors, we've all dealt with different challenges, which we're going to explore, along with a recommendation that we've derived from what we learned in this course. So generally, the military is viewed as a collectivist culture, where mission success is dictated by how well you work as a team. However, our current evaluation system is geared towards an individualist mentality, which ultimately rewards those that look out for themselves rather than the success of their team. In the Air Force, we have what's called OPRs, or Officer Performance Reports, which is just an annual summary of what we've accomplished. To the left, you'll see one of my old ones. You'll notice it consists of 3 major sections with bullet points. The top section is just a generic summary of my job title, and the next 2 sections are what I've accomplished. There are a few problems with this system. One is it's formatted in a very specific bullet format that no other company or agency uses. It becomes a new language that we all have to learn. There are right and wrong words and certain rules dictated by our own regulations. Another issue is it's written by the ratee. The ratee writes their own OPR and sends it to their boss. Typically, the boss only edits the bottom lines, which are reserved for certifications. If the ratee is not good at writing their bullets, they might not be highlighted as a strong performer. On the other hand, if someone is really bad at their job, but has a talent of writing strong bullets, they may get a better job or promotion. Which brings us to the next challenge. Most jobs are dictated by rank rather than ability or expertise. One example of this was in my last job. I was the chief of training, and my assistant had only been in the Air Force for 4 years, but he was a very strong performer. Rather than making him my position, my leadership wanted to put someone else with no experience or background in training just because they'd been in the Air Force for 9 years. Another issue we're running into is a lack of feedback. Although our OPRs mandate that we receive feedback, I can honestly say I have never received any feedback in the 9 years I've been in the Air Force, and I'm not alone. Most of the time, my peers and I only know how we're doing when we get our OPR back, and we see the bottom line with our strats, which leads me to the last issue with our OPRs. If an individual has a history of stratification, they're going to continue getting those strats, even if they aren't performing as well as someone without a history of strats. Although it's defined differently in our book, we do call it the halo effect. Once they've been put on this fast track, they're going to continue on that path. And our reward system isn't much better. Because the military has limitations with budget and regulations, there's not much they can incentivize. The reward system that we have in place is giving awards to individuals, which can later be added to their OPR. The problem is it's the same bullet format, so you're competing against other people's writing abilities. I've seen so many individuals not get awards, even though they have worked way harder and deserved it, just because they weren't great at writing bullets. Another issue is it's typically individual-based. There's only one category for team in the award system. Our current structure values individualism over the success of the team. So, how would I change it to be more effective? So I would recommend that we get away from the individual mentality and shift towards being more collaborative and team-focused. First, I would add a team-oriented section that allowed their peers to give them a peer review. It would encourage individuals to be team-focused rather than on their own successes. I would also eliminate the bullet system. It shouldn't be a coded language to tell individuals if they are meeting or exceeding the expectations. I would also recommend that a new system be used where only the rater could access the report, which would prevent the ratee from writing it. It would also force the supervisor to talk to their subordinates on what they've accomplished and provide feedback on their performance. In addition, I'd recommend that the leaders put the individuals most suited for a job in those positions, regardless of rank. It motivates individuals to work hard to attain those positions rather than being entitled to them. For the reward system, I'd recommend a new incentive program. Rather than just getting a certificate and a line added to their OPR, I recommend increasing their quality of life with things like a pass, which is just a day off that doesn't count towards their allotted days off. To promote teamwork, I'd recommend highlighting the value of teams in the workplace and start by having a friendly competition. The winners of the quarter receive a pass as well. With these recommendations, we're showing the member that we value them and their teams. We're eliminating the game and allowing them the freedom to perform well at their job and be rewarded for it. Next, Nolan's going to talk about his challenges at Northrop Grumman.
Courtney. I'd like to start by talking a little bit about Northrop Grumman's feedback and reward system. So for feedback, I think there's some pretty good things in place for both team and peer feedback and also one-on-one individual feedback. For our team feedback, we've got a third-party anonymous conducted survey, and the results of that are fed back and we discuss it as a team after. But in contrast to that, we have also one-on-one interviews. I think those are pretty productive for me personally, and then there's a lot of great mentorship opportunities too. I think the rewards are pretty common in our industry. There's annual bonuses based on profitability and some other stuff like that. And there's as individuals progress time-wise, their rank is increased as well, along with their benefits package. So the one that I would kind of like to talk about is, I feel like, more common and universal to many, even not in manufacturing industry. But often organizations look for secondary opportunities for maybe where expectations weren't met, or after some overtime was worked. And with a lot of the common one is a pizza party. And I think you might have seen some stuff on social media about this. I love this graphic here, where it kind of just shows a little bit of that frustration where employees sometimes feel like management uses a pizza party as a scapegoat. And as I started looking into this question of why apology meals are an appropriate reward for teams and team building, I found some pretty interesting articles, and it seems like this is a pretty active topic from the last couple of years. So why does this incentive fail to meet the needs of teams? And I feel like it was commonly quoted that recipients often feel exploited by this because they've gone and traded some loyalty to the company by maybe missing out on some family events or other things to help meet a production deadline, and their family can't participate in the pizza party. It feels temporary, and often it makes management appear out of touch with the employees. As these feelings continue, employees can kind of feel like problems and concerns are ignored by management. And I love what Shelley Fagan said in her article. She says, a sad pizza party is nothing more than the illusion of doing something nice, which fosters a greater resentment as meaningful proposals go ignored. So as management, what can we do to kind of break away from this and still have secondary incentives and rewards for our teams? And some of the articles had some great tips. Candid conversations about the systemic issues. There were quite a few articles and discussions that talked about having a roast fest. Gathering feedback was way more productive, and as that feedback gets incorporated into corrective action, trust and communication in those teams, even small teams, tended to go up. And also we can identify with teams appropriate incentives and rewards. What are some things that we could do on a small-term basis or short-term basis when stuff like this happens? And lastly, one of the articles I felt like illustrated this well. They said that as we incorporate opportunities to showcase results and support relationships at work, that's where we start to see actual positive momentum in teams feeling like the rewards are in line with their efforts. And so I'd like to encourage everyone to kind of look at some of the other options when we go to look for, I feel like, a common reward, and look for some better outcomes as we look at ways of doing this differently. So I'd like to turn the time over to Dustin to talk a little bit about Lockheed Martin.
Thanks, Nolan. Here at Lockheed Martin, I believe we have one of the best overall rating and award systems, but I believe that it can still be improved. For the rating system, we have the ability to input both short-term and long-term goals via the LM Perform system. We have the ability to have up to 5 total goals at one time, so we set between 1 to 2 quarterly or longer goals and set between 1 and 3 daily or weekly goals. This allows each employee to better keep track of what they've accomplished while also providing their leader with updates. Leaders also conduct one-on-one meetings with each employee at a minimum of once per quarter. When it comes to the end of the year, our leaders then take all of the year's accomplishments input by their employees to determine who the top performers are and highlight the top 20% with a larger merit increase and a larger annual bonus. For everyone, the annual bonus at the end of the year is then calculated by taking the organization's performance multiplied by the individual's performance and then set it against a specific percentage depending upon the employee's salary grade. We also have a pretty good award system with our Next Gen Recognition Award system. This situational award system allows for both leaders and peers to provide an award to both an individual and or a team, depending upon the circumstance, with the only difference being that you have a larger payout available to give out if you are a leader. But the issue is that the budget overall is limited, and you can see the amounts there on the screen depending upon whether or not you're an employee or a leader. So how do we fix this? With that system, I can say that it is one of the best I've been a part of, but it can definitely be improved. I believe that the article Reinventing Performance Management from the Harvard Business Review in 2015 highlights where we can make a couple of changes to the Lockheed Martin system without throwing out the entire thing. We just need to change the focus from short/long-term goals to focusing on the three main objectives that the Deloitte organization found: recognizing performance, clearly seeing performance, and then fueling that performance. We accomplish this by doing away with the annual performance review at the end of each year, but keep the goal setting. We also conduct more one-on-ones between leaders and employees, focusing on those goals input. This will allow for more focus toward each individual's strengths. We then conduct quarterly and/or per project reviews to make merit changes off of that. The changes in merit would be smaller but more frequent, allowing employees to not lose focus on their goals. We lastly would need to help our leaders reshape how they are evaluating individuals. We don't need them to spend their entire time conducting reviews. We would make it so that it would just be a part of their daily business rhythm, paying careful attention to remove any idiosyncratic rating effects. By doing this, we would help to streamline our entire rating process and reduce the overall amount of time employees and leaders currently have to spend throughout the year, and especially at the end of the year on the performance reviews. As for our reward system, the only thing I would recommend would be to increase the overall budget. The system allows everyone to reward individuals and teams, but it limits the budget to the point where you can only reward a very large impacting circumstance. This can act as a demotivator. Think about a situation where you are working on a project and helping to solve a problem, but when it's not a large enough impact, no additional thanks are given, or worse yet, a pizza party is provided. So in conclusion, after looking at our three different organizations, we feel that in the Air Force, if we eliminate bullet systems, have a more team-oriented section with peer feedback and base positions on strength and competencies. At Northrop Grumman, if we eliminate pizza parties and have management more engaged with their employees. And at Lockheed Martin, if we can focus on fueling our individuals and team performances, we feel that it would improve each of our organizations. Thank you for your time, and take care.